them this is about America first and our ability to save their asses. As Trump said at Davos, you'd all be speaking German if it weren't for us, which really pissed off the French once they had it translated into Arabic. But this is why, perhaps, that Europe often badmouths us. Nothing bothers the Euro elite like the fact that they owe us. That stupid conference exists to make powerful people in parkas feel superior to the country that makes them look small. And Trump walked in and reminded them that they're not superior or not even our equal. He didn't go there to apologize or to blend in or to be lectured. He went there to say 2 words, "You're welcome," and then added 3 more, "Now pay up."
Going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
A citizen-led petition calling for Alberta to seek independence from Canada is gaining momentum across the province.
Alberta needs to be strong and free from the shackles of the Liberal government. We are tired. We don't matter in this relationship, and it has to stop. I think we've had enough.
The Stay Free Alberta campaign is collecting signatures for the chance to vote on the question. Do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? That's the question that they're hoping for. The push comes as new polling suggests support for Alberta sovereignty is on the rise.
We are witnessing history in the making. We will be looking back years from now at this week as one of the most consequential moments of the century. President Trump walked into Davos and obliterated the liberal globalist order right in front of their faces. All the while, he humiliated the feckless liberal peon to our north in Ottawa, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, before the entire world. It was so bad, Carney left. He literally got on a plane and fled Switzerland. And perhaps that's because running is what Carney does best. After all, while he was at Davos, something unprecedented is happening back at home. Tens of thousands of Albertans are lining up in sub-zero temperatures to do something Ottawa never thought imaginable: vote for a referendum to permanently separate from Canada. And now we're getting word that President Trump is actively supporting those secessionist efforts behind closed doors. This isn't just another political story. This is the moment the globalist house of cards came completely crashing down. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, continuing to celebrate and stand up for what you made possible back on November 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments or questions. It'll be my privilege to read them and answer them during this live stream. Before we dive in here, you know, the same nefarious, corrupt forces that we saw gathered at Davos this week have been eating away at your savings now for years at a federal level. And of course, we're talking about inflation, where reckless Federal Reserve policies have been relentlessly devaluing our dollars now for what? Decades, right? Now, here's a not so fun fact for you. You ready for this? Whatever money you had saved up in 2020 has already lost 22% of its value. What do they say about a car, a new car, when you drive it off the lot? The moment you drive it off the lot, what is it? It loses like 20% of its value. Yeah, that's your dollar since 2020. There are riots going on in Tehran right now over things like this. Your savings didn't shrink. You didn't do anything wrong. You got robbed slowly and quietly by the hidden tax called inflation. And here's what makes this explosive. Most Americans have 100% of their retirement tied up in cash assets, all dependent on a system that just keeps printing more dollars and deflating your money. But thankfully, There's a way to protect what you've worked so hard to build. And that is with the timeless value of physical gold and silver. Have you seen the prices of gold and silver of late? They're skyrocketing. And that's why I have turned to Augusta Precious Metals. Gang, they are absolutely amazing. I'll tell you, gang, if you have yet to invest in gold or silver, you are so missing out on this. You have got to click on that link below and get involved right now with gold and silver. Augusta Precious Metals, I don't even know what to say about that. They've been like my best friend, to be honest with you. They have literally been my best friend in all of this. And I can honestly say, gang, that this is an astonishing investment for you right now. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to go and click on that link below and get your own account with them immediately. Because if you don't, gang, you're not going to believe it. You're going to be missing out. So click on that link below right now. Sign up with Augusta Gold and Silver today, and you will not be disappointed. All right, gang, hold on a sec. Hold on. My whole world is falling apart here. All right. Let's see here. Hey, Josh, put this on break for just 1 second, will you? I will be back in 20 seconds. All right, there we are. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties here. What a week. What an absolutely incredible week. We are literally watching an entire world change in real time. I mean, the last remaining liberal globalists were crushed for all the world to see. The Godzilla of politics walked into the belly of the beast, into the very heart of the World Economic Forum, absolutely demolished the demons in Davos. He obliterated the WEF, not to mention the United Nations, right? I mean, this week, while at the WEF, Trump unveiled his newly formed Board of Peace, 30-plus nations assembled as one of the most consequential bodies ever created, as Trump described it. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkey, Egypt, Hungary, Belarus, all part of a new international order that even now is sidelining the liberals in Europe and the globalists at Davos like never before. I mean, seriously, think about that. Can you believe that Trump unveiled this inside the belly of the beast at Davos? It was Trump putting an exclamation mark at the end of his declaration of the end of the liberal globalist order, of which Davos has been the beating heart. He literally drove a wooden stake through the heart of this organization. And as if things couldn't possibly get better, he just permanently exiled the WHO. The World Health Organization. He didn't just withdraw the United States from the WHO. He basically expelled them from any and all international organizations the United States is involved with. I mean, we are literally witnessing the dismantling of the liberal order as we speak. And no one is learning that lesson more painfully than Canada's ultra-repulsive globalist Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Old Beijing Mark, that loves selling his country out to the CCP's highest bidder. On Tuesday, Carney stood before the World Economic Forum and delivered what the Davos crowd actually called a historic speech. I've actually seen some Facebook liberal friends of mine post it and say, oh, you have to watch this speech. It's so epic. It's so important. I kid you not. I mean, we live in alternative realities. It was, for sure, precisely the kind of speech that the SEALs at Davos clapped for. Carney declared that the American-led world order is dead and that we globalists at Davos are going to have to fill in the leadership vacuum. The billionaires and unelected bureaucrats applauded. The same people who've been living off of American taxpayer dollars for decades were thrilled to hear a Canadian prime minister validate their anti-American worldview. Think about that. They live off your tax dollars and then, in effect, disdain you. They despise you as they do that. But Carney made one fatal mistake. He thought words matter more than power. And then Trump arrived. And gang, what happened next was a masterclass in strength versus weakness. Trump took the stage and immediately owned the room. He literally recalibrated the world on the Davos stage through sheer, raw political, economic, and military power that the demons in Davos simply can't even imagine having. He stared down Mark Carney and reminded him that Canada lives only because of the United States. Full stop, as a borderline illiterate Supreme Court Justice Otto Penn would say. He reminded them, you're nothing. Your liberal, woke, effeminate Ottawa government is nothing without us. No one cares about you. No one talks about you. No one thinks about you unless I bring you up. Your only relevance is in our shadow. It was brutal. I mean, the most powerful man in the world not only reminded the Davos crowd that they are the most inconsequential people in the world, but he also told Canada's prime minister that he doesn't matter, that he is the very definition of irrelevance, and that his country's entire existence depends on American benevolence and charity. And he was right. Canada sends 75% of its exports to the United States. We send 3% of ours. I mean, you heard that right. We are responsible for consuming 75% of Canada's exports while they only take in about 3% of ours. Canada's entire security apparatus is subsidized by American military power. Economically and militarily, they are nothing without us. And how do they respond? How does Carney respond? With criticism, with condemnation, denouncing Trump's supposedly reckless rhetoric and his unjustifiably aggressive and destructive behavior towards the liberal globalist order. And then when Trump showed up to challenge him, Carney, like a petulant little child, literally fled Davos. He got on a plane and left Switzerland the same morning Trump arrived. That's not leadership. That's a coward. A cowardice wrapped in meaningless progressive talking points that literally mean nothing anymore. But Trump wasn't done. In a move that sent shockwaves through Ottawa, he formally revoked Canada's invitation to join his new Board of Peace. This isn't some symbolic gesture. Countries are indeed lining up to join. Even Putin offered $1 billion to get in. But Canada? Well, thanks to Carney's arrogance, they're out. They've been disinvited to the board that is even now replacing the United Nations. Humiliation on the world stage. The message is clear. Bite the hand that feeds you, and you don't get fed. But here's where this story gets truly explosive. while Carney was embarrassing himself in Europe. Back in Alberta, something extraordinary was happening. Albertans, by the tens of thousands, have had enough. They're lining up all across the province to sign a referendum that asks a very simple question. Should Alberta cease to be a part of Canada and become an independent country? And Albertans are answering. And they're answering very clearly in Red Deer, in Edmonton, in Okotoks. Thousands, literally tens of thousands, are lining up in minus 20-degree weather for hours to sign that referendum. Not for concert tickets, not for the latest iPhone. They're lining up for a referendum on independence. The petition would need about 177,000 signatures by May 2nd. Organizers are going for the magic number of 1 million. They are gunning for 1 million signatures. Why? Because they want to send a message so loud and clear that Ottawa can't ignore it anymore. It'll shatter Ottawa's eardrums. And this, by the way, is something that we've been pointing out now for months. Nothing, absolutely nothing draws out the electorate more than independence referendums. More Brits came out to vote for UK independence, for Brexit, from the EU than ever came out to vote in any British election in history. The 2014 Scottish independence referendum achieved a remarkable 85% turnout. The 1995 Quebec sovereignty referendum, that's the closest thing akin to Albertan sovereignty, that drew an astonishing 94% turnout, the highest electoral participation in Quebec's history. Montenegro's 2006 independence referendum drew an 87% turnout. This is the pattern we see over and over and over again. Nothing, absolutely nothing brings out voters like independence referendums. 2 million people who voted for Brexit had not voted in the last 4 UK national elections. What we call low propensity voters see independence referendums as their opportunity to tell the powers that be what they really think of them. And generally, it's not very good, to put it mildly. And that also explains why the polls are almost always off when it comes to predicting the success of an independence referendum, because independence referendums bring out the very disaffected voters that have largely dropped out of politics, and thus they don't get polled. So this is why Brexit was such a shock for the globalists, particularly the demons in Davos and all across the European continent. They thought the referendum was going to be comfortably shot down because that's what all the polls showed. But those lines that we're seeing all across Alberta right now are the real polls. And they suggest that this referendum may indeed split Canada apart. And guess who appears to be encouraging this behind the scenes? Who do you think is encouraging this secessionist effort? Well, of course, it's none other than the one and only Donald J. Trump. Trump is absolutely loving this. Now, what we have to understand is that the Alberta independence movement isn't just a domestic Canadian issue. It's becoming a strategic asset in Trump's hemispheric defense strategy. According to multiple reports, separatist leaders have made multiple trips to Washington seeking U.S. recognition and a staggering $500 billion line of credit contingent on them getting independence. And here's the critical connection. Trump's national security strategy, we've been talking about that was published just weeks back in December, explicitly articulates a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, what were affectionately called the Dunroe Doctrine or the Donroe Doctrine, which of course asserts U.S. preeminence in the Western Hemisphere in the context of a rising civilizationalist world, where civilizational states, what Sam Huntington referred to as core states, basically govern their own hegemonic regional spheres, replacing the old globalist one-size-fits-all institutions like the IMF and the WTO and the World Bank and the UN. And so an independent Alberta, with its vast oil reserves and conservative governance, aligns perfectly with the civilizationalist vision. The U.S. views a free Alberta strategically aligned with American national security interests. And so, needless to say, Mark Carney is finding himself completely out of his league here. He's being humiliated on the international stage. He's being humiliated by a massive separatist movement at home. And as we're going to see, this is, in fact, all part of the art of the deal. Now, if you thought Trump was done after Greenland, you ain't seen nothing yet. He does indeed have his biggest sights set for the Great White North. And I'm going to show you exactly how. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments and questions. I'll be happy to answer them on our live stream here. Also, while these champagne socialists are living the high life in Davos, often, unfortunately, from your tax dollars, I know a lot of you are feeling the financial squeeze right now, and everything costs more, but paychecks haven't kept up. And honestly, the usual advice, just get a second job. I mean, that's not realistic for most of us. So I want to share something absolutely amazing that I've discovered. It's something I like to call a ghost economy in the online book market. It's a $2.7 billion industry that most people have no idea exists. That's why I call it a ghost industry. And here's how it works. It's amazing. The online book market is incredibly fragmented. Okay. So the same book can be priced at $5 on one website, but literally, I kid you not, $65 on another website. And this is simply because the platforms don't communicate with each other. People who understand that discrepancy are quietly supplementing their income by identifying these price differences. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get rich overnight, okay? That's not actually what it's about. But if you could bring in extra money each month working straight from your laptop in your spare time, doesn't that sound pretty good? Straight from your laptop? I'm talking real money that could help with bills, pay down debt, or just give you some financial breathing room. And the amazing part, this is key. You're not going to believe this. You don't have to handle a single physical book. Everything happens online. Everything through existing platforms. You just need to know where to look for the books and how this platform system works. That's it. So that's why I'm hosting a free training where you can see exactly how this works. You'll see the specific websites, the process for finding these price gaps, and how to get started immediately. We're talking like now. Now, look, I know there are a lot of empty promises out there, but gang, trust me, if you've been with this channel, hopefully you know this already. We only give you the real deal here. This is not that. This is a very real opportunity. It's a real market inefficiency that exists right now, and I want you to learn how it works so you can financially flourish with it. I mean, if you like money and you like books, this is the perfect side job for you. So if you're tired of financial stress and want to explore a practical way to earn extra money, extra income straight from your laptop, just click on that link below to register for this training, or go to bkprofit.com/Turley. That's bkprofit.com/Turley. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's called book arbitrage business. It's phenomenal. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bennett explaining how many countries, most especially the Carney administration, inadvertently exposed themselves for who they really are at Davos. This was a mask-off week for many of our so-called allies. Take a look.
That the president wants to lead is with a change in the relationship with Greenland. You know, people here have been kind of freaking out over some of the messages from the administration. The president announced that there is some sort of framework in place now. What can you tell us about where those negotiations are at, and does it include a pathway for U.S. ownership of Greenland, as the president said he wants?
Well, Dasha, first of all, let's review the week. The hysteria level that hit here was just out of control, driven by the media, driven by like this European hand-wringing.
Well, in part driven by statements from the president saying military action wasn't off the table. I mean,
No. But everyone just took it, as they do with his statements, as the media does. It was completely out of control. And you would have seen my comments all week. Everyone remain calm. Let's let the president get here. Let's hear what he has to say. And during that period, I think there were some very unfortunate statements that were made by various countries. So we could actually see some of these countries took their mask off. Some of the leaders took their mask off. Others were very measured and waited to see what happens, and now Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we had a very good meeting with him, and he has presented this framework that the president is willing to work toward.
You know, what I love about this administration is how it is so fearless, how it stares down directly the legacy media. That Dasha nut over at Politico is one of the worst. She's an absolute left-wing lunatic. And this administration consistently confronts her and her ilk and stares their lunacy down with logic, reason, and reality. The reality of a changing world that the legacy media is frothing at the mouth, freaking out over, doing everything they can to try to stop, but of course to not even any remote avail. But Secretary of Treasury Basson is right to call out the other hysteria that the legacy media and liberal leaders in Europe tried to stir up this week. And I frankly think it's all part of their plan, to be honest with you. I do think it's part of the art of the deal. For example, one of the strategies Trump did executed so well this week. I mean, it was literally a masterclass. It was a textbook escalate to de-escalate strategy, escalate to de-escalate. He made initially exaggerated demands. It's the art of the deal. Bottom line, he makes exaggerated demands only to deflate the situation such that he gets exactly what he always wanted. And this all goes back to the art of the deal. All they have to do is read the darn thing. The blueprint is right there. Trump always sets an outrageously audacious, ambitious opening position. Some would call it insane, but that's the whole point. It's not the real offer. It's a negotiating tactic. It's a negotiating device designed to extract the lowest price his opponent will accept or the highest price they'll pay. And his Greenland negotiations, I mean, they could literally constitute an entire seminar at Harvard Business School. Of course, they won't do that because they're woke nuts. But when Trump floated the idea of the U.S. taking Greenland militarily, the mainstream media lost their minds. They thought he was serious. He wasn't. That inflammatory language wasn't a policy proposal. It was a pressure tactic. It was designed to force Denmark, NATO, and the EU into panic mode so they come to the table desperate to make a deal. That's why I think getting the media whipped up in all of this is actually part of the plan. By threatening massive punitive tariffs on Europe, by refusing to rule out military force, by creating maximum pressure, Trump forced Europe to the negotiating table and achieved a framework deal that gives America everything it actually needed. Strategic positioning for missile defense, access to critical minerals, and a permanent embassy-like sovereignty over significant portions of Greenland. This is exactly what Trump wanted from the very beginning. And in true art of the deal form, he got it through an escalate to de-escalate strategy. But, I think another strategy in all of this is getting the legacy media and European leaders whipped up in an absolute hysterical frenzy so that people like Besant and Rubio, and most especially Trump, can come in and they can look like the cool, calm, rational adults in the room. In the midst of all this media meltdown and liberal tantrums, Trump and his entourage come out of that looking rational, calculative, deliberative, strategic, and the media and the liberal European leaders, they look unhinged, mentally, emotionally unstable, erratic, and frankly, out of their minds. So Trump literally played liberal globalists like a fiddle this week, and it was absolutely glorious to watch. It was a masterclass in manipulation and strategic, political, and advantageous manipulation. And that's exactly what he's doing to Canada right now. Make no mistake. Carney thinks Trump is being reckless, right? CNN is hyperventilating. Why are we going to war with Canada? Why are we shattering our alliances? He's unhinged. Time to invoke the 25th. But Trump knows exactly what he's doing. By consistently and unrelentingly taunting Canada as the inevitable 51st state, he's creating the conditions for negotiations that end up giving him everything he wants. And what is that precisely, by the way? What does Trump want from Canada? Well, bottom line, Trump's primary goal is securing uncontested American control over the Arctic region, which he views as the next great power battlefield. So, for example, a ship traveling from Alaska to Europe would traditionally use a route that travels south, right through the Pacific Ocean, and then they would cross the Panama Canal, and then they would eventually reach the Atlantic Ocean. They cross the Atlantic, and they'd get to Europe. That entire trip would take approximately 40 days. Now, with the Arctic opening up using the Arctic's Northern Sea route, that same ship can reach Europe in less than 10 days. This one single route can cut trade vessel trips from 40 days down to 10, dramatically increasing trade activity and overall accessibility. And that's true for North America, and it's true for Asia, and it's true, for primarily for Russia. As the Arctic ice retreats, new sea lanes open up that bypass traditional choke points and shorten routes between Europe, North America, and Asia. And we could also see how northern Greenland, along with Alaska, lies on the shortest route between Russia and the continental United States, meaning defensively, Russian ballistic missiles or bombers targeting America would fly directly over Greenland. So Trump is intent on setting up part of his Golden Dome missile defense shield in Greenland as part of America's northernmost military installation, along with missile warning systems, satellite tracking, space surveillance that feed directly into U.S. homeland defense. So when it comes to Canada and their massive geographic presence in that region, Trump is utterly aghast that Canada spends just 1% of their GDP, which is less than Texas, by the way, on defense while controlling the world's longest Arctic coastline. He is aghast at that. He sees Canadian officials as utterly clueless and in complete denial of the new geopolitical realities that are rising in the region. So Trump wants three things from Canada, bottom line. He's explicitly demanded that Canada meet and exceed NATO's 2% defense spending target immediately. He wants to see what he calls unprecedented Canadian investment in Arctic radar submarines and again, what Trump calls boots on the ice. And he wants full integration with the Golden Dome missile shield. That's basically it from a military perspective. He wants Canada to ratchet up their military spending in the Arctic region. He wants them to fortify that region, and he wants them to fully integrate their missile defense with the Golden Dome that the United States is setting up to protect the whole of North America. So effectively what Trump wants is he wants Canada to fund its own voluntary subordination within a U.S.-led Arctic security architecture. And the 51st state threat creates leverage. Either Canada steps up militarily on its own or America steps in to do it for them on American terms, whether they like it or not. And let's see what you're going to do to stop us. So that's the military side of things. From a money side of things, economically, Trump wants more trade integration with Canada. There are long-standing trade grievances that Trump wants resolved. He wants access to their dairy market. He wants to dismantle Canada's supply management system that limits U.S. dairy access with tariffs up to about 298%. He wants to remove restrictions preventing U.S. retail banks from operating freely in Canada. He wants to reopen Great Lakes water sharing agreements, with Trump explicitly threatening to turn off the faucet from Canada to California. And he wants Canada to step up on border security to prevent mass illegal migration from the north. Each demand represents breaking down Canadian sovereignty over key economic levers. And the 51st state narrative makes these concessions look like alternatives to forced annexation rather than surrender of sovereign control. So both countries come out of the negotiations looking like they won, looking like they secured their interests. Again, it's the brilliance of the art of the deal. Just like with Greenland, Trump came out of Davos with Denmark continuing to pay Greenland's welfare bills. They subsidize upwards of 60% of Greenland's budget. Trump secured a deal where Denmark, I kid you not, Denmark continues to play the part of welfare queen, all the while America gets all the strategic control it wants for free. Again, it's absolutely brilliant. Trump admitted the Greenland framework gives the U.S. total military access. It gives us the mineral rights we want, and it bans Russia, China from setting up mining activities anywhere on the island, all without formal annexation. That's the art of the deal. And it looks like Trump is creating the very conditions by which he's going to get everything he wants from Canada as well. Carney can give all the speeches he wants about maintaining the liberal international order and the essential role of Davos and the WEF play in the maintain that order and the like. But speeches don't stop the inevitable. Speeches don't stop the rising civilizationalist world. Speeches don't stop great power politics. And speeches don't stop provinces from seceding. Only strength, and Trump has it. Alberta is finding it. And Mark Carney, he's got a plane ticket back to Ottawa where he can hide behind his desk. The globalist order is collapsing, and a new America First civilizationalist world has finally arrived. Over to you guys, over to you as Josh, our moderator, assembles your questions. There are some stunning bombshell revelations coming out. They're absolutely ripping the mask off deep state corruption. Venezuela's former intelligence chief just exposed Maduro's narco-terror network, allied with China, Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah, looting trillions while evading sanctions. In a direct letter to President Trump, he alleges corrupt U.S. politicians, diplomats, and CIA officers took millions to prop up the regime. Gang, those exact same corrupt tentacles are strangling our financial system today, manipulating fiat money and quietly draining hardworking Americans' retirement savings to bankroll their radical globalist schemes. President Trump is leading the counterattack, establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, making America the crypto capital of the world, and opening retirement accounts to crypto. His family are major players pouring their faith and fortunes into it because decentralized crypto is the one wealth fortress the deep state simply cannot steal. You can take the exact same stand today with Block Trust IRA. Their groundbreaking Animus AI platform has outperformed Bitcoin by over 250% since 2020, delivering the shield and growth real patriots need. Head on over to TurleyTalksCrypto.com right now and get a free $2,500 funding bonus when you open up your account with them. That's TurleyTalksCrypto.com to secure your family's future today. All right, Josh, what do we got? Give us some Q's and A's here. Brian Edgett, my dear friend, how will the Board of Peace work when we have our next Democrat president? We're not going to have one, right? When he worked to defund it, at least American dollars, refused to cooperate, etc. I'm sure we'll have to see how well Trump can institute this new Board of Peace, how many countries are there, to what extent we're able to move the leverage over to this Board of Peace and International Affairs as over and against the UN. The UN obviously has the institutional precedent. But when all is said and done, Trump's argument, and there's been some really interesting articles on this, Trump's argument is basically this: the UN is it's in bureaucratic paralysis. It can't do anything. It can't bring about peace. It can't negotiate peace. It can't negotiate deals. It's if for all practical purposes, it's no longer fit for purpose. So we need a new organization made up of real power brokers that know how to get deals done. And so the original idea of the Board of Peace centered on turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, right? And that's still part of the plan. So this board would be in place to oversee literally the reconstruction of an entirely new city, a literal new micro world within Gaza that in effect be a sort of Dubai 2.0. And the idea there was that it would deal with the twin problems of infrastructure and ideology. So Gaza's just blown to hell. It's just a slum. So its infrastructure is falling apart. And that helps to shape the radical ideology by claiming this is all Zionist fault. If you can get the place to become a Dubai with all this international investment and all of this economic flourishing and activity, both those problems are solved. You no longer have the radical ideology, and you no longer have the infrastructure problems. That's the notion. But what Trump seems to have done is, that was the genesis of the Board of Peace. And what he seems to have done is he seems to have taken that and he's running with that and say, why don't we just simply, go full cosmic with this? Let's use the Board of Peace as a model for bringing peace in areas of conflict all across the country, basically doing the same thing. Bringing in, again, it's an astonishing sort of recalibration of Davos now into a Trumpian ethos, a Trumpian sphere, where, as you know, he's a permanent board member of the council. So even if so let me finish the point. So this is all about bringing investment, bringing billionaires and bureaucrats into regions, but for the purpose of actually solving problems. They can make all the money they want as long as problems are actually getting solved and conflicts are getting resolved. So if this really does take shape over the next 3 years, a Democrat president could leave, but they're only sidelining their own international influence, especially with a board that has Trump as its permanent chairman. So, they can do that, but that just means that the rest of the world, in a civilizationalist sense, is going to just leave us by. America doesn't like that. And so that'll be some pressure, at least, to stay involved in some way, shape, or form. Great question. Amazing. MAGA 24-hour Dr. Steve, with all the recent election integrity victories in the Supreme Court, the 2026 midterms, what are the chances we get rid of universal mail-in voting, have voter ID verification on all ballots, and have no votes counted on ballots received after Election Day? It really comes down, in my view, it comes down to the Republicans in the Senate of whether or not they're going to get rid of the filibuster. If they don't get rid of they can have a ceremonial vote in the House. Or at the very least, force a physical filibuster. Right. So right now, all you have to do is say, we are filibustering, and that's it. Whereas traditionally, if you've seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, traditionally you had to stand up there and speak nonstop in order to keep that filibuster going. But in the old days, that meant it would end someday. You were prolonging the negotiations to try to get maximum benefit for your side. But now the way both Republicans and Democrats have worked it out in the Senate and our House of Lords is all you have to do is say, well, we're going to filibuster. And they say, oh, okay. And so there's no possibility of cloture. And so they table whatever it was you threatened to filibuster. So at least bring back demand that they have to do a physical filibuster or get rid of it. Otherwise, you're just going to have a ceremonial vote. That'll certainly politically hurt the Democrats when they vote down, when you don't get the 60 to bring it to a full vote on the floor and make it hurt them. They don't want election integrity measures. But if you don't do that, there's not, outside of getting rid of the filibuster, there's nothing we can do. There's just simply not. Trump could do executive orders, but I don't know if they'll survive Supreme Court muster. I don't, because Supreme Court is pretty clear, that this is dealt with at the level of the legislature, either the plenary powers, the state legislatures, or at the very least the federal legislature. But executives, governors don't have any say in how elections take place. It is entirely legislative. So, but again, that said, there has been especially in states like Arizona and Georgia, there have been so much, North Carolina, so much election integrity measures already in place in those 3 states that we very much need in 2026 and 2028. So we're in good shape there. It's still very frustrating in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, because they still have Democrat governors holding things up there. Will O'Toole, Dr. Steve, Trump was hilarious the other day, Davos, better than any comedian, but is that resonating with our American citizens, that seeing DJT taking shots in a humorous fashion at our allies? Is there a pull for it? Thank you, Will. I have not seen, well, you got to be careful to what extent you want to rely on just these kind of flash polls and so forth. We tend to be very selective with the polls that we take seriously in terms of their track record in their predictive effectiveness. But no, I don't have any. I think generally speaking, in a populist age, and again, this is a prima facie kind of approach, but in a populist age, most people do not like politicians. This is why Trump was so successful in 2016. We had 16 of the GOP's finest that all the establishment thought were going to take out Trump. I mean, Charles Krauthammer referred to Trump as the Al Sharpton of the Republican Party. He was that dismissive of him. But they didn't realize how much Republicans and even Democrats really despise our political class. So when Trump mocks the political class, that in a populist age, that generally will play pretty well. James, I don't want Alberta to join the United States unless we increase the size of the House, which, by the way, I think would be a net benefit for the GOP. Oh, yeah, no, there you go. I don't know if you're going to see Alberta actually join the United States. Alberta seems to enjoy the notion of being a sovereign, independent country that can play off of Canada and the United States. And get the best trade deals possible and the like. If Ottawa isn't playing fair, then they go to DC or they go to Austin or whatever. And if America isn't playing fair, no problem. We'll go back to Ottawa or we'll go to Beijing. They can play off of all of these competing powers. So, but I'm with you. Yeah, I think it will. Everything's benefiting the GOP electorally right now. The 2030 census will be one of the most devastating moments in the Democrats' electoral history. Mark, great work, Dr. Steve. Stay on the facts and keep your eye on China. I most certainly want to thank you for that wonderfully generous super chat. Thank you, Mark. Ice Agent Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, can the DOJ arrest and charge Don Lemon without that corrupt commissioner signing a warrant? Are these clowns going to be tried in Minnesota? Do you really think they will be convicted? Well, we'll see about the convictions. We'll have to see where they're tried and whether or not they can. I mean, they obviously did wrong. It's pretty obvious, and they seem to really hang themselves when they openly admitted that they interrupted that church because, as far as they were because of their theology, because of their beliefs, because they're supposedly white supremacist Nazi fundamentalists. Well, sorry, you're allowed to be what you can. You're not allowed to disrupt religious observances simply because you don't like their theology or their politics. So they really hung themselves in that sense. So I mean, if we do have a fair trial, I can't see it as even within the realm of possibility they don't get convicted. And that's pretty bad when you get convicted on the like KKK charges and the like. Don Lemon, we did not sign up for this country. We did not sign up for this country. This is not our country. A country that can arrest a former president but not arrest Don Lemon is not the country we signed up for. I don't, you can lecture me about the rule of law till you're blue in the face, That is not the laws we signed up for. Just you can give me all the lectures you want about, media, First Amendment, and that's not the country we signed up for. Media immunity is one of them. And so, yes, Don Lemon, as I understand it, can be arrested. They don't have to go through this magistrate. They just need to find a federal judge to sign the warrant or a grand jury to an impaneled grand jury, which takes longer. They just want to arrest him right away. This magistrate apparently is married to someone in the Keith Ellison administration. So we're seeing sort of the tentacles of the Soros network here. But bottom line, we did not sign up for this country where you can arrest a former president, but not arrest Don Lemon. That's not the United States of America that we signed up for. And so that whatever monstrosity of a social order, if it can even be called that, it needs to be dismantled immediately. Mark, America loves our Canadian friends. We do. We love our Canadian patriots. It's the liberal globalists we can't stand. Franz, Dr. Steve, enforcement in a unipolar world looks like a banker in a suit playing with financial instruments. Where in a multipolar world, enforcement looks like an operator wearing fatigues playing with kinetic ones. I love it, Franz. And it's very true. I mean, the unipolar world was a world of bureaucratic administrative states. The IMF, the WTO, the World Bank, the UN, the EU, to a certain extent, Davos, WEF. WEF was supposed to be the guiding light and soul of innovation of bureaucrat and billionaire for just such a world. That's a world where constituents felt increasingly alienated by impersonal institutions that operated according to values, interests, concerns, and norms that were reflective of the technocracy, the experts, the managerial class that was running the system rather than the people themselves. The concerns, values, interests of the people completely ignored by these impersonal institutions. It was basically like having the DMV running the world. And it's just shattered into a million pieces, most certainly as of this week. I love the way, but where's multipolarity is going to have to, it has to negotiate with real power. It has to negotiate with real culture. It has to negotiate with real civilization. It has to negotiate with real religion. It can't hide behind these, obligations and protocols and procedures that have been sterilized by a managerial class. Those days are over. Aug 10th, thank you for keeping us informed. Unfortunately, too many other shows are constant doom and gloom. You're great with putting things into context, explaining what's going on. Cheers. Thanks, Aug 10th. Yeah, and thanks for the super chat. Yeah, there is. I mean, our side, unfortunately, well, I mean, the good news, too, is the far left tends to be very doom and gloom as well. I mean, you're seeing them all over Minneapolis right now. They literally look like something from World War Z. I mean, they are literally apocalyptic. But no, our side, unfortunately, there are two post-Americas that I like to talk about. So, we're not left versus right anymore. We're America versus post-America, right? Or globalists versus civilizationalists. And there are two post-Americans. So there's the Mamdani left, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib post-American, the post-American left. And they believe America needs to be destroyed. They believe America is fundamentally racist, bigoted, white supremacist, and therefore it has to be dismantled and recreated in accordance with the image of the cultural Marxists. So this is why they have more affinity with illegal migrants than with citizens, because citizens, however inadvertently, perpetuate a racist, bigoted, discriminatory, sexist, phobic system, whereas illegal migrants are not tainted by that. So they are post-American through and through on the left, meaning that they believe the nation needs to be destroyed and refashioned after their own image. There is a post-American right. And this post-American right, I've met them, I've talked with them, I've interacted with them, I've learned a lot from them. But the post-American right believes that America died decades ago with the rise of the deep state. And with the rise of the deep state, the military-industrial complex, and with neocons and neolibs and globalists infesting every square and inch of DC, it is unsalvable. Unsalvable. Did I put an extra B in there? It's beyond saving. Because it's already died. And so it doesn't matter who we put into. They'll talk. They'll be rah-rah Trump in election season, but the moment he takes the oath of office, the moment he takes and he says one sentence that they find suspect, that's it. The globalists got to him. That's it. They got to him. We're shot. John McCain lives. You know, John Bolton's he's got his fingerprints all over this administration. Oh, look, there he is with Lindsey Graham again. What kind of administration beats up Tom Massey, but then hugs and kisses Lindsey Graham? That's it. He's compromised. And so they're a different kind of post-American. They're a post-American that believes the country already died decades ago. So you have those who want it dead, and you have those on our side who believe it already died and it cannot be resuscitated again. And both of them you just need to stay away from them. They're both bad news. I find those who say America's already dead, I find them in many ways even more retractable in the sense that there's no evidence. I mean, if you probe them evidentially, you get the kind of batshit nuttiness that you're seeing from Candace Owens. You know, it's just they come up with these bizarre conspiracy-like things, and they start blaming all these people. And then I find with those same people, and I'll bring up Putin, and you guys know I'm a fan of Putin as a civilizationalist. In a civilizationalist world, I know what he is doing. He is recalibrating the totality of the Eurasian world around Moscow. That's exactly what we're doing in the North American sphere around DC, or what Xi is doing in the Sinosphere around Beijing, or what Modi is doing in the Hindu-sphere around Mumbai. I get it. The Islamic world is still they're broken up sort of sub-civilizations. They're still trying to find a very real political center, although Mohammed bin Salman is definitely trying to make Riyadh that without question. Mecca, of course, the center of Islamic faith. But that said, whenever I bring up Putin, they're like, oh yeah, no, but Putin's doing a great job. And I'm thinking, what do you know about Putin? What do you know about the Kremlin? What do you know about the deep state there? What do you know about how it works? The answer is nothing. Therefore, he's okay. So there's just this there's this very complex network of ideas associated with DC that's all bad, and then there's literally total ignorance about what's going on in Moscow, and therefore, ironically, it's pretty good. And I'm just like, if we can't talk evidentially, if we can't appeal to some basic epistemological corroboration for the claims that we're making, there's just no point. I mean, you just want to suck me up into your Gnostic little world. And I find the world as it is absolutely fascinating. Like Elon said yesterday in Davos, we are living in probably the single most extraordinary moment in human history, civilizationally speaking. We are living he's arguing, literally within 50 years, there'll be more robots than humans. There'll be trillions or billions of robots. I can't count. There'll be more robots than humans. I mean, it's a fascinating world we're living in. What I like to call sort of a civilizational cosmocracy It's an incredible world that's rising. I don't need to go into post-American defeatist apocalyptic conspiracy theories. Deonra, latte liberals versus boss gangsta. Gangsta wins every time. Love it, Deonra. Robo Guy, with Rhino screwing us over, we need to focus on primarying them in addition to maintaining or flipping seats. Scott Pressler also thought this. Yes, we need to pick off as many rhinos as we can, but we have to be strategic with that. Obviously, Susan Collins is not one of them. Susan Collins is the best Republican we could possibly get from Maine, given Maine's absurdity, political absurdity. Take whatever we can get from New Hampshire, given their ridiculous. New Hampshire is one of the few states where the Republicans have, 5%, 6% voter registration advantage, but they consistently at a federal level send Democrats because they're just these secular, pathetic liberals there. Even their Republicans are liberal. It's pathetic. So we have to be strategic with that. But I agree with you 1,000%. I'm a victim, ROT Core. Dr. Steve, and learned Patriot Professor. That's right, learned Patriot Professor. I know we keep saying when Trump acquires Greenland. Personally, I need to see it to really believe it. But when Trump acquires Greenland, what will be the name of his new golf course up there? I'm thinking Iceberg. Oh, man. Iceminster or Triumph over Greenland. Hopefully, I love that Trump in Triumph. Hopefully he doesn't victimize the people of Greenland like how I've been victim. That's right. You're so oppressed. That's right, ROT. No, great question. Bottom line, I don't think there's going to be too many golf courses up there unless they want to put it under a roof in an arena of some kind, massive arena. But no, we're going to have embassy-like sovereign regions there where we pretty much get to do whatever we want militarily and minerally, as it were. Benton, question, Ms. Learned Professor. Will the cannibals eat the left in England? Both the cannibals and the left hate the Western civilization state. If the Western civilization state of England is destroyed, will the cannibals eat the left? Yes, that's how it works. That we already have that pattern. So in Birmingham, you probably have seen this, Benton, but in Birmingham, there is, I forgot, there's a school. I'm just for our listeners, I'm talking about the UK. There's a school that, if I recall, is about 80% Muslim students. I'm assuming the majority is Pakistani. And the principal was a very prominent gay man. And he wanted to introduce some pro-LGBT curriculum into the school. I think it's a K-8 school or something like that. And the parents, shall we say, flipped out. And they pulled their kids out of class in protest and pushed the authorities, whoever was overseeing it, I don't know if you have school boards over there, to nix and throw away that curriculum. And it was a perfect example of what, and now both would vote Labor, generally speaking. And it's a perfect example of how, though they were united politically, culturally, they couldn't be more separate. And eventually, the politics always become cultural. This is exactly what we saw in Dearborn, Michigan, and Hamtramck. Primarily Democrats, and I think they're all Democrats in Hamtramck, and it's an all-Muslim city council. And one of their first acts of business as the first all-Muslim city council in the country was to ban the pride flag from all public spaces. So yes, when you start to see the Islamification of politics, it is going to go to again, we are going to the right, whether people like it or not. But it is going to go to an Islamic right. It's not going to go to, an American or Western conception of right. It's going to go to a very Islamic conception of conservatism and civilizationalism and so on. And I don't expect that they'll need the other identity groups in left-wing politics once they assume power. Once they assume power, they will chuck them faster than than you can count. And we've just seen that over and over again. That's the pattern. RoboGuy, I understand what Trump was saying, but AI has done more harm than good. Pricing out tech, forcing it on everything, even if people don't want it, making nothing but AI slop. No more, and pop the bubble. yeah, there you go, RoboGuy. Yeah, I mean, there's definite pushback on AI, especially like you say, the slop. Aesthetically, AI is pretty horrible. It's nowhere near. AI will never be able to match human creativity, the human soul, human consciousness doesn't have, because I don't see such creativity, soul, or consciousness as a natural part of the physical, biological, chemical world. It's spiritual, so it's not something we can create in of itself or artificially manufacture. But that said, we are in a bit of an AI Cold War in the sense. There's the geopolitics of AI. And the notion is that he who controls AI controls the world. Putin actually said that, if I recall, back in 2017, 2018. He who controls AI controls the world. He who has the superior AI system has an inordinate advantage over others militarily, economically. Again, not so much culturally, but certainly militarily and economically. So there's going to be some pushback in terms of it over-promising and under-delivering, as you're calling it out. But in terms of, I think it was Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen who pointed out the hypocrisy of the left. Left has no problem bringing illegal migrants into the country to do the jobs Americans won't do, right? But then they flip out about AI taking all their jobs. It's like, well, which is it, bud? It's like at least AI doesn't drive drunk, right? At least AI doesn't commit crimes. It doesn't shoot, doesn't kill. It's not a convicted felon, So AI is here to stay. There's no way around that. You just have to make your peace with it. And the good news is it's being integrated into the rising civilizationalism. Is in fact, in its geopolitical usage is making it part of civilizational states. So it's not AI versus culture or AI, tech versus tradition. It's an archaeo-future blend where AI and religion and culture, spirit tech, as it's often referred to, are more and more emerging. That's just the nature of the beast. Bert, morning, Dr. Steve. Do you think the team Trump put together in Greenland is what the 2028 ticket might look like? Wow, I didn't even think about that. Well, actually, I did. I was thinking about our bench. Yeah, that entourage. Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's Vance Rubio. I mean, there's no way around that. Everyone's talking about that. I think there's even some fundraising on that right now. So Vance Rubio, but I think Scott Besson will stay in. Wickoff will stay in. Yeah, you name it. I mean, certainly Musk is back in. He's giving millions and millions of dollars to Republicans for the midterms right now. And hopefully we'll be able to put together talk about an AI techno structure to help us win like he did back in 2024 with the swing states. So, yeah, I think so. I think you're seeing our bench, and our bench looks pretty impressive and pretty bold, especially when you compare it to the other non-existing bench. Robo guys, stay safe, by the way. Big blizzard this weekend. Yeah, we are. We're supposed to do our performing arts. I was going to give a performing arts lecture in Lancaster on Monday night. I was hoping to meet a bunch of you there. We have several hundred people signed up, but registered to be there. But unfortunately, yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to be doing that this weekend. So we'll just find another date sometime in February, and hopefully we'll all meet up there and talk about beauty and the rise of a civilizational stage. Franz, Dr. Steve, what will the implementation of stablecoins do to the fractional banking industry? Implementation of stablecoins due to the that's a very good question. I'd have to do a study on that. So I'm assuming, so in other words, the stablecoin, you would argue, ends the practice. What is it now? Fractional? Don't you get to lend out $10 for every one actual dollar you bring in as a bank? You get to loan out 10 for every one, and you're arguing that the stable coin will get rid of that fractional network, that fractional structure. It's a very, very good question. I don't know the answer. I'd have to look into that. Brilliant. I love what you're bringing up, especially with the increasing rise of crypto, because crypto's the money of the noosphere. Remember, we have a geosphere that creates the planet, right? And we have a biosphere that creates life, but then we have a noosphere. It's based on the Greek word for nous. You have the with all of the telegraph line, the literally trillions of miles of telegraph line and internet and satellite technology and space stations. You have the human mind now being materialized in a cyber space that is every bit interpenetrates the planet as does the geosphere and the biosphere. So we're now in the noosphere, increasingly a digital world, and crypto is simply the money of the noosphere. So the more and more the noosphere develops, like the biosphere, the more and more our money is going to be connected to the ledger, as they say, to Web3, to the blockchain. And you can't. I don't see how you fractionally reserve in the blockchain, though you can infinitesimally divide it up, which is interesting because it's digital. So anyway, you're raising great questions that I would have to do a study on. So keep me honest on that. I'll be happy to do a study like that, Franz. Rebel Squirrel, Dr. Steve, what can the GOP do to ensure it wins the midterms this year? How can it better outreach to disaffected independent voters to support it despite the eternal legacy media assault on it? Well, you got to take a couple of steps back. The disaffected independent voter isn't watching the legacy media. They've turned off the legacy media a long time ago. The only people who are basically watching legacy media are your Democrat grandparents. That's basically it. That's their audience. It's dwindled to about total now. We're talking total. This includes Fox, by the way. Total is about 20 million. Walter Cronkite on a good night could bring in 30 million, just to give you an idea. One anchor could bring in 30 million. The total legacy media complex, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, PBS, the whole thing, is New York Times. The whole thing is about 20 million. So it's not even 10% of the population. So you just gotta, just throw that away. It doesn't matter. Disaffected independent populists you reach by being as Trumpian as possible, because the Trump coalition is an executive coalition. So this is the tricky part. Trump coalition is a presidential coalition. It's not a congressional one. Our congressional Republicans are not Trumpians. Some of them may be, like Anna Paulina, right? She would argue. I would argue she's very much a Trumpian, and you'll see that James Comer, very Trumpian and so forth. But generally speaking, they're still neocons. They're still kind of stuck in the old Republican, apparatus. Whereas Trump is a third party candidate who took over the Republican Party, and so but he took it over as a presidential candidate, and he brought out the disaffected independent populists at record levels, so as to create an environment where the more of the electorate that came out, the more easily he would win. It used to be that Republicans need a very narrow electorate, very thin electorate, because the Democrats used to get the low to no propensity voters. But now it's Trump. They've abandoned the Democrats, and they only come out for Trump. So the trick is to try to translate this executive coalition into a legislative coalition, this presidential Trumpian coalition into a congressional Republican coalition. And to be honest with you, Republicans are not doing the greatest job because they always just seem to disappoint because they hate their constituents. They're lobbyists, they're funders, their patrons, they all exist in a different cultural sphere, a different cultural space than do the rank and file grassroots voters. And so their donor class, that's just, you have to understand, politics is a business. The donor class are the funders. They're the ones who write the checks. And Trump was able to bypass them because he was independently wealthy. But most congressional candidates are not. And so they're dependent on a donor class that's still more beholden to Mitch McConnell and his structure and his politics than they are Trump. So that's what makes this so hard at a congressional level. That said, keep your eye on the VRA decision from the Supreme Court. They're still arguing it as we speak as of January. There's still briefs being filed and so forth. But if they get rid of Section 2, which has been exploited by the Democrats to explicitly draw up districts around race and excluding white voters to create majority-minority districts so that you have guaranteed Democrats. Politico estimates there's about 19 of them in the South that if the Supreme Court decides is unconstitutional, they would all go red. So the Republicans could pick up as many as 20 seats as a result of that. That would pretty much do it, it looks like. Because when you're dealing with congressional seats, you're dealing with only about, I think it was about 20 or so. At one time it was 70, but with all the redistricting, it's dropped down to about 20, maybe 30 that are legitimately contested, that they're kind of purple. They can go either way, red or blue. That they're almost non-existent. Everyone's gerrymandering now. Everyone. That's what Trump was trying to get the Republicans to kind of catch up with before the Democrats gerrymandered. But he was just trying to get all the red states, Texas and North Carolina and Missouri and Kansas, and tried to get Mike Pence's Indiana. They deliberately said no. We could have picked up 2 more seats there. But Florida's yet to come in. They're supposed to do, I think, Louisiana, which is contesting the Section 2 VRA. They'll flip their one of their lone blue districts red. Just the Republicans should end up winning the redistricting wars. It won't be by much, probably just about net 4, but that's all we need. And then Democrats will be permanently locked out of power because there aren't the votes for them in the districts. The districts have been deliberately gerrymandered so as to guarantee, like plus 10 Republican districts. So if that's the case and we continue to go and push for Trumpian populism, we'll be in power for the foreseeable future. Vaughn, Dr. C, do you feel there's a destructive bent to the EUWF crowd that would rather set it all on fire than see the nation state survive? Rule in hell rather than serve in heaven. Yeah, so the idea here is that, okay, if we've been rejected, and we've been so thoroughly rejected, then let's just destabilize at this point. It's literally kind of like what we saw in Iraq, when we were dealing with the mass insurgencies in Iraq. It's like, okay, yeah, you took over, fine, but we're going to make your life hell. And I think so. I think we're certainly seeing that in Minnesota right now, where they know they've lost. So what you have to do then is make life as unbearable as possible. So with the hope that people will eventually turn on this stuff, and that they'll get some kind of reprieve of what took them over. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they'd rather see it burn than successful. Inhuman Condition, Dr. Z, what do you think about Spamberger here in Virginia? Bring back DEI in full force. Do we have a chance against her? Yeah, good question. And thank you for the super chat. All of you, thank you for your super chats. No, I mean, I think, she's just fulfilling her job description. She's an incredibly odious looking person, isn't she? I'm not usually one. I don't make fun of looks or things like that. I think that's kind of cheap. But with her, she does have this kind of cauldron sort of, like she came out from a cauldron kind of look. Yeah, I mean, she's just, look, this is the modern day Democrat Party. It's post-American. They're doing everything they can to rip apart our institutions and try to rebuild them in accordance with their own woke cultural Marxist image. And she's doing that to Virginia. Now, yes, I do think you have a chance against her, because I do think that what she's doing ironically splits the left. Again, Virginia learned this the hard way back in 2021 with Loudoun, Virginia, Northern Virginia, in Nova, actually voting out school boards that went too far left. If you go too far woke, you're going to split the left and unite the right, and then they're going to create a super majority to get rid of you. It's just, we see it over and over again. But again, after they get rid of you and they put in their more moderate, then they go back to being blue. And then unfortunately it all starts all over again. It's kind of a doom loop. We're already at what now? Near 400,000 federal workers gone. That Doge work continues. When all's said and done, Trump will probably have eliminated 1.2, 1.5 million federal jobs from Washington, D.C. Inordinate amount are in Nova. And it's going to take him a while to pick up and realize, we can't afford it here anymore, and find jobs elsewhere. Hopefully they don't come to a neighborhood near you. But and then once Nova gets cleared out a little bit, and once MAGA becomes sort of the new reigning paradigm of DC, which it will inevitably in a civilizationalist world, some kind, it could be watered down, but it's not going to be the old Biden globalist nonsense that we saw over the past 4 years. Once that happens, don't be surprised to see equilibrium restored back in Virginia. Nova will always be blue, but it won't be the kind of rabid, crazy, Mamdani-like blue that we've been seeing of late. That's very much a reaction to Trump, but they only end up hurting themselves and hurting their own state. And you'll have deep red rural in Western Virginia fully behind a pushback, a blowback. And then hopefully you'll get some more common sense. It'll always be a purple, leaning more blue state, but it won't be insane. And you may be able to flip it back red. It was pretty reliably red for a number of years. But again, that was with the neocon apparatus. That was with the Reaganite neocon era, and that's gone. And now we've seen it flip. We've seen the college-educated, white upper middle class demographic flip far left. They've gone nuts. And whereas the blue collar, white, non-white, working class voters have gone the other way, and they've gone right. So it's just part of this kind of disequilibrium that's still looking for a new equilibrium. But unfortunately, in the meantime, yeah, she's going to make life very, very hard for you guys in Virginia. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. Baja Cat. After Iran last year, Trump promised to focus on domestic issues. So far, he's been hyper fixated on Greenland. DOJ hasn't made any major arrests. And now he's backtracked again on deporting illegal migrants. What is happening? Illegal workers. I don't know about, I don't know. Oh. Yeah. What's happening is you have a very Baja. Well, first of all, thank you for the super chat. But I think what's happening is you have a very low resolution view of what's happening here. Where do we go with this? How do I put this? All right. So we're now it looks like we may hit 5 to 6% growth this quarter alone. This is after 2 straight quarters of 4% growth. That's jobs, real jobs happening, not illegal migrants, real jobs. The housing market is at its lowest level in 4 years. Gas is at its lowest level in 4 years. Price of food is coming down. Price of eggs has gone down 80%. Yeah, you've got the borders secure. You've got manufacturing and industry coming back. We're becoming now finally an export positive nation. We're exporting more than we're bringing in. We have a near $500 billion of money pouring into our federal government without a penny of taxes raised because of tariffs. We have we got Greenland because of our civilizational. Remember, you cannot, when we talk about America first and focusing on domestic issues, you can't end up thinking, oh, okay, so Russia, China, India, Turkey, they can do whatever they want around the world. We have to just focus on mid-America. And that's it. We can walk and chew gum. We can focus on mid-America and focus on creating the civilizational sphere that's going to be required in a new multipolar civilizationalist world in North America. And I think that's exactly what Trump is doing in the Western hemisphere. I got to be honest with you, Baha. It never just ceases to amaze me. It's like, this is what I mean. It's like Trump will say one thing. He will literally close the border. He will expel 2.6 million illegal migrants from the country in months. He will bring the murder rate down, which you probably heard, to its lowest level per capita since 1900. He will lower crime by 40% in DC. But he says one thing and you go, it's all over. Now what? He doesn't care about us. I don't know what to tell you other than you have to get perspective. You have to just get perspective. You have to be able to look at the big picture and see that this is MAGA. You can't rescue MAGA from Trump. You can't rescue America first from Trump. He is it. So go with it, dude. Go with it and trust it. This is the best possible world we can imagine having right now. I mean, I just literally don't know what to say. So I think he's thoroughly domestic focused because that's what MAGA is, while at the same time recalibrating the Western hemisphere around the United States. I just don't know. That would be my imploring to you. Franz, if stablecoins issued could be used to settle tariff balances, would that set the conditions for introducing a reserve currency? Interesting. Yeah, that would be. They're already talking about a Bitcoin reserve currency. That's the big one. So technically, Bitcoin isn't stablecoin. Right, it would be. I think Bitcoin would be called blue chip, not stable. I don't know if you're counting Bitcoin or Ethereum on that. Trumps are big into Ethereum, by the way, as Don Trump Jr. and Eric are. Definitely. Yes, definitely. If we're starting to use stable coins in economic transactions, there will, by definition, I think, be a reserve. Yes, that would be baked into the cake of that. Casparius Ghost. Sorry. My concern is when a Democrat becomes president, they will give everything back to WEF when it comes to Greenland, Venezuela, and any Dunn Roe doctrine thing. Yeah, I mean, they could. Yeah. But again, generally speaking, once this stuff gets instituted, it's very hard to rip apart. Trump tried it the first term, and it was not good. It was very mixed results, right? The reason why he's so successful now is because of what a disaster it was with Biden. And I think we need a comparable kind of MAGA disaster for a Democrat to come in and feel like they can rip up this new civilizationalist order justifiably. I would also, caution you. I mean, again, in a civilizationalist world order, you're dealing with balance of power. You're dealing with great power politics. And so you need to be able to leverage all the power you possibly can on the world stage if you're going to have any say in how things how things politically work out on the world stage. So we would only be committing suicide for doing something like that in a world of great power politics. What Biden's people actually tried to do is they tried to deny that world existed. They tried to do everything they could to keep the globalist liberal international order alive, but it's falling apart. And there's really nothing anybody can do about it. And when you read the New York Times, the Washington Post, and you listen at some of the more honest moments on CNN, they're all admitting it. JP Mangan, potential states need to become a territory first. Potential states need to become a territory first. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're talking about like Greenland or something, it's never actually going to become a state. It's going to be something, more akin to, the Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico or something akin to that. It would be a U.S. territory. It wouldn't be an actual 51st state. No one's talking about that, really. Hello, all from 11Z Anderman. Thank you, 11Z Anderman. 11 Zanderman, probably. Kasparis goes, if Alberta does get independence, they should stay independent as long as possible. They need to prove themselves, but so does the United States, not becoming Canada. Sure. No, it's great. Great point. Very, very good point. Yeah, both sides need to prove themselves in that sense. And I think they will. I think they would stay independent for a while. Let's see. Cyrex. Every single sanctuary city leader and protester interfering with ICE are guilty of violating U.S. Code 8, Section 1324, and U.S. Code 10, Section 253, time for prison. Please look these up to confirm. I'd have to, or some you guys can do it at home. But definitely, Tom Homan has said from day one, if you are interfering with ICE and their federal law enforcement responsibilities, you are committing a felony and you will be arrested. And unfortunately, we are starting to see some of those arrests, which is very good. And with that, my friends, that is all. That's the way it was from January 23rd. If you are on the East Coast, Northeast, like I am, Philly area and all, bundle up, stay safe. The storm coming up. But otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. Keep an eye out for any news alerts we have. I will be your back porch professor over the weekend, and I will bring you breaking news and analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.